nay.
Second.
Dr. DaCosta has seconded.
Someone has to, no, a commissioner has to second the motion and then vote.
This is Commissioner Maple. I second.
All right.
Approved. Thank
All
you.
those in favor, all those in favor of
And all those
passing
in
the,
favor of adopting the agenda, say nay or say yes.
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 very good, very good. All right.
So now is the approval of the minutes.
Yes.
Can somebody make a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the minutes as submitted.
Commissioner Nate approved the motion to adopt the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner Maple approved and seconded the adoption of the minutes.
All
And
those,
all those approve the minutes.
all those in favor of the minutes.
All those in favor of the minutes.
Aye.
Aye.
The minutes has been approved.
Okay.
And
All right.
seconded. Okay, what's the next? We're gonna look at the executive director's report, Dr. DaCosta.
All right. Thank you so much, Commissioner Fuss, for presiding over the board meeting today. We have a lot of legislative things to talk about that I will leave for Brenton at the end. But for right now, the House passed the budget last week, and I believe it's in the Senate right now. It looks like we secured everything we asked for except maybe one FTE. I think we'd requested 4. They approved 3 of the 4. So it looks like our budget is looking good going into the Senate. Senate may put that one person back in. I don't know. They can always, they have that option to do that. We've had a couple of staff to leave CMA. Alex Tovar, who was our Hispanic coordinator. Alex went to work with Humana, to move back to Charleston. He wanted to go back. His family wanted him back home with all the things that are going on right now around this country and in this state. The family wanted him near them in Charleston. So Humana had a position for a bilingual individual, and he took that position with them. And Jasmine Goodwin, she was with our small business division. She has taken a position. I'm not sure where it is, but she left for other opportunities also. So we will be filling some of those slots right after the final passage of the budget. We just want to make sure that everything that we need to be aware of, we're doing with all that. I think I called all of you last week about an amendment that someone was trying to put into the budget bill to remove funding for. They had 100 amendments. They were trying to get rid of almost every commission or board in the state. I don't think any of those amendments got approved to remove an agency. So we were fortunate. We have good friends in the General Assembly. They looked out for us. They know the work that we do here at the commission, and they don't think that it's fair. Well, they did not think that it's fair that you even attempt to dismantle an agency using an amendment to the budget bill, because our agency is by statute, and the only way you can change it is to pass another law to change it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when Brenton comes on a little bit later. Right now, we have Alexis Scipio. She is the consultant that's helping us to complete our strategic plan. I'm going to turn it over to Alexis at this time so that she can update you on where we are.
Okay, thank you for having me. Good morning, Board of Commissioners. Good morning, CMA staff. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I believe that many of you, most of you have seen this. This is about our fourth review of the strategy. And because of that, I do want to make it interactive. So if there's any questions, don't wait to the end. Just please chime in, and I think we can have some dialogue while reviewing this. Well, let's see, we started this in August of 2024, and that was a quite different world. I think we can all agree things were very different in August. And at a very high level, the formula was that we were going to assess the CMAs, their policies and processes, and then typically we do a prioritization, and then you implement. And this was supposed to be contracted as kind of a 15-week project, but with all of the change, this has taken a little bit longer, but we're still at that prioritization and planning period, and we can't advance into the finalization until we have the board's formal approval of the policy. So we don't want to make sure we're meeting everyone's ideas, have everyone's feedback, everyone's got their blessing and buy-in before moving forward. So with that being said, a lot has changed, and with February and the new administration coming in, there were some changes to the vision, the mission, and just the vernacular language used with the program areas. But those were only text changes. So we just cleaned up the text and brought it into alignment with what the commission does as it represents and supports all South Carolinians. So nothing major there. And you will have a copy of this document, so you can feel free to read it in detail. I don't want to just read to you. But I do want to give you a refresher on what our focus areas were. So we had three key focus areas of visibility, collaboration, and advocacy and policy influence. Those three areas were pulled from all of reviews with the Board of Commissioners, with the various advisory councils, and with CMA staff. And these areas, we believe, are areas that will help map out the next 3 to 5 years for the commission as you guys advance forward. The key enablers for that being research and data, and a strong change management system. Those things will be needed as you advance. And I think in light of kind of the uncertainty and kind of everyone's kind of operating in a brave new world, it's absolutely imperative that you have those strong data to support the work that you're doing, which I've done a lot of research and feedback from Dr. Finn's team. It's in place, and a strong change management system, so you're agile enough to make changes and pull levers that allows you to stay in compliance with whatever happens in our future. Was there a question? Okay. So the first strategic initiative being collaboration, just to go into it a little bit more, we'd like to build a robust ecosystem of partnerships that amplifies CMA's impact. So CMA is already doing the good work. Obviously, your legislation understands that, but we want to amplify it. And we found a few key tactics that you will be able to read along and see that we think will help kind of 10x those efforts. And those are just formalizing with whether it's the MOU, whether it's just joining each other's strategy and planning sessions with a few of your key partners. So that might look like the SBA, SCORE, SC Commerce, SC DOT, all coming together at the same table and reviewing their 5-year plan, right? Looking for opportunities where you can leverage and increase capacity by leaning into programs that they've already proven maturity on. And likewise, those partners can leverage all of the data and all available information and resources that CMA has. And that's what we believe will really help push the needle if everyone is kind of marching in the same direction and using each other as true partners, aside from kind of annual or semi-annual conversations, but really making sure your strategies are working together for the whole. So in a nutshell, that's what collaboration looks like. But in more detail, there will be kind of networks from all the advisory councils, kind of how they support what cause. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the ecosystem looks like later. Are there any questions with collaboration? Okay. Moving on to advocacy and policy influence. We'd like to position CMA as a leader in shaping inclusive policies and addressing systemic disparities. So CMA's research division, I think, research and data have always been important and helps take the emotion out of conversations. But I think that it's even more important in light of the world we're in. So we need to make sure that if we are asking stakeholders to support, or we're going to legislators to support, that there's data there that shows why you're focusing on key areas and key communities. And that is what I really believe is a huge leverage that CMA has a handle on. So we want to continue to use that by producing kind of data-driven reports that policymakers can see, that they have access to, that CMA becomes like the go-to resource when policy is being shaped. It's looked at as kind of the gold standard. And I think this is already in place, but kind of just like formalizing it by making sure the legislators are nurtured throughout the year with this information, and not just when something comes along where a request is needed. Okay, and next is the operational framework. There's value chains and roles. I'm sorry, excuse me, visibility. So the visibility, I think, is a shorter piece. This is going to help with the rollout of those FTEs at satellite locations that Dr. DaCosta just highlighted earlier today. And it will, there was some feedback about launching kind of annual events and making sure that CMA has a presence, that the communities that don't have access to social media have visibility of the resources and what's available to them, and kind of different avenues. So I know Sharice's team is working on that, and storyboarding stories that help people see themselves in CMA, just to help the visibility there. So operational framework, like how this all works. And I think this part is very important. So when we get approval, we understand the ask, and then you guys can come back to me and say, well, that feels like my role as a board of commissioner, or, it doesn't really. And then that way I could take that feedback and tweak the strategy and report back to Dr. DaCosta, Britton, and team if more resources are needed. But the first thing is creating the value chain. As you know, the value chain is what makes everything happen. Everything else is just pretty words on paper, right? But you have to have a value chain that lives this, that makes it work in the communities. So it's always important to remember who's benefiting. If CMA were to close shop today, who would lose, right? All of South Carolina would lose. South Carolinians would lose. So here it's just talking about what are the key benefits, what are they getting, what promises have been made to the stakeholders, so that that's kept in mind and it's clear why you do what you do. There is some language here for the commissioners that you represent a district, but also there is an opportunity, I'd say, for people that have a very strong skill set to leverage their skill set, leverage their network and their just innate strong suits outside of their district. So if you're particularly great in policy, Commissioner Maple may be great in policy. She might be able to support someone in Commissioner Barber's district, or reach out to a company or support a topic. Someone might be really good with hospital and administration systems, right? You should be leveraging skill sets based on your innate talent and not just the districts you represent. So seeing that kind of looks like attending more of your local district meetings, but you might also volunteer to attend an industry event outside of your district. Okay, so there's not much update on the advisory council and the partners, but I think all of this aforementioned is leading to this ecosystem that we're essentially trying to build, which takes away like linear models that say, okay, this is District 47, this is District 32, and more so looks at leveraging your talent in the best place the talent exists. So we did an example of this by talking about the program partners, right? Making sure that the strategies are kind of mirroring each other, that they're infused, that you're not just having sporadic conversations, but they're more intentional, maybe like quarterly reviews with your key strategic partners. And the same thing for the commissioners. Perhaps it looks like a commissioner taking a key community partner under their umbrella and being the point of contact for that. It could also look like on the CMA staff side, CMA staff making sure they're incubating other team members to make sure that they have relationships with legislators, with people, so that when Mr. Brenton is traveling or when Dr. DaCosta is out, there's still a point of contact that legislation feels comfortable with on the staff level to reach out to, and just so they really feel like it's a fostered relationship, right? No one likes to only be called when you need something. So just making sure that there's some intentionality around those conversations and relationship building. And then all of that is enabled essentially by technology. That's why it was a key enabler. Eventually, you would want some sort of database or hub where all participants were able, now I say participants, all stakeholders were able to access. Now that can be as simple as a SharePoint where minutes are published, and it could be eventually one day kind of a much larger picture, but it is important if you're being audited and you're moving to this business ecosystem from a linear model, that there's evidence that everyone has access to the same information and all communities are being given access to the same resources. And I think that resource sharing, whether it's for the woman-owned businesses, small business, and the advisory councils, that everyone understands that everyone has the opportunity to access these resources. And I think a technological solution could help there. If you're ever, audited on making sure that ad hoc programming is not happening per community versus being leveraged community-wide, CMA-wide. So that pretty much wraps up the discussion. There's some details there, not much has changed, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If there was anything omitted, if you didn't see something that you thought should be part of there, I'm happy to look into that. Any questions?
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. There's one thing I want to make the board aware of. We will have to change some of the statute. And when I say change, there's some verbiage that we will have to probably remove from the statute, and no longer, we will probably no longer be able to separate by saying we advocate for particular groups. So we're going to have a more inclusive language for that includes everybody who may be experiencing some of the same unresourced issues in their communities. Brenton and I have been working on a draft. We are going to schedule some time to meet with legislators because this is it's going to take legislation to make this change. So there may be some tweaks that Alexis will have to do, and that's basically with the language, the wording. We're still working on that. When we have a strong enough draft, then we will present it. If we're going to have to look for a senator or a House member or both who will champion the change, because it has to be introduced and on the floor of the House, or introduced in the Senate and in the House for consideration. And we also have to include the governor in that process because he appoints or he nominates all of our commissioners. So therefore, and Brenton's going to give some update on some legislation that's already pending regarding commissioners. But where we need to table this, Alexis, until we know exactly what's going to happen with the legislation, because we may need to get rid of the word minority and things like that, get rid of African American, Native American classifications as such, and make it a more general classification for people who live in the same communities regardless of their race. Even
Understood.
though, because we don't have a DEI policy. We have a statute. We have a law. The law makes us DEI. The law is what drives us. They wrote it in the law. Now they're telling us that we may have to adjust it. So therefore, before I would table this before the board votes, so that whatever additional changes we need to make that before the board said yes to move forward or what have you. And that I don't think it's going to be much longer because I think they're dealing with the big DEI bill. They dealt with it last night on the House side. And I'm not sure of everything that's in that, how it's going to impact the commission. From that vote, it will determine what changes we're going to need to make. But I do know CMA has been around about 32 years. It is going to change. The name's going to change without a doubt. And how we do things will change, but who we serve will not change. Instead, we will be expanding service to a broader base of people. And I think that's where we're headed. We are stronger now than we've ever been. We've done more at the commission in the last 6 years than we've done in the 32 years it existed. So I know for a fact that we could take this agency even further and make it an agency that can be around for another 20 or 30 years. But it's going to take some work. It's going to take some changes. I know a lot of people don't like change, but change is coming whether we like it or not. And I think that we're in a better position here in South Carolina because our legislators, I think they took a lot of the things that were considered DEI out of the bill. I think I read or heard that they Call Me Mr. out of the bill, and that's a program to promote African-American males to become teachers in the classroom because there's such a need in South Carolina for teachers. And a couple of other things that they removed, but I'm not sure of the other language in that bill. So we're trying to get that information so that we'll know how to proceed from here. Britton and I, we have a meeting with Senator Darrell Jackson on the 1st of April, which will be one of several meetings that we will have with members of the Senate and the House to talk about transitioning the commission into a more solvent organization. So be prepared. We will keep you posted as the best that we can as information is provided to us. And once we know more information about what the language should look like, Alexis, then we will have another meeting with you to update certain sections. Not a lot, because we've pretty much covered most of it. We're going to still be doing a lot of what we do right now. Research is still going to be at the top, collaboration, advocacy, all those things will still be in place. It's the audience, our service areas will be broader, and the people we serve will be greater.
Dr. Costa, when you say that, and the name might change, so what? I'm not saying come up with what the name might be, but some example of what we're talking about.
Okay, we've got a couple of things that we were looking at. We were going to change the name 3 or 4 years ago because I knew that something was going to happen with this agency if we didn't try to strengthen it. One of the names that I came up with is the South Carolina Commission for Advancement. What did I tell you, Britton? Commission for Advancement and
Advancement and Community Engagement.
Yes, that's right. The South Carolina Commission for Advancement and Community Engagement. That's an all-inclusive title. I think that's a title that will work. We're just making the title more community-oriented. And because I really believe that they're going to ask us to change the name of the agency. So be prepared. If you all have other thoughts on what a name should be, we're all open for it. But community engagement is critical, and advancement is really critical because we are not only moving the agency forward, we're moving the communities that we're working with forward in the process. Britton's going to give us some legislative information right now. Britton?
Good morning, everyone. So to piggyback off of what Dr. DaCosta has mentioned, we are looking at some ways in which we can retool the agency and repurpose it, kind of going forward. To kind of go back in time a little bit, a few months ago, as you're all aware, there was a lawsuit that was filed against the agency, essentially stating that the requirement under the statute that 6 out of the 10 board seats must be occupied by African Americans is violating of civil rights laws. In response to that, on January 15th, Senators Massey and Jackson co-sponsored a bill that is now in the Senate Judiciary Committee. We're waiting to hear when there will be a hearing to basically take out that particular requirement. And so it would give the governor and also the Senate an opportunity to make the board composition any way that they see fit. It takes out that requirement for African Americans. And so we're waiting to hear more. The Senate is dealing with the budget right now. But towards the end of April, I'll try to strike up some more conversation with that committee to see when they might be able to have a hearing on that. As Dr. DaCosta mentioned, yesterday, the House Education and Public Works had a full committee meeting. They had one about 3 weeks ago in which they solicited public testimony on what's being termed the anti-DEI bill. At that initial meeting, Dr. DaCosta and I attended just to listen. There were at least 200, if not 300 people who were there to testify. The hearing ran about 4.5 hours. And of all the people who testified, nobody was in support of the bill. However, a pared down version of the bill was advanced from the full committee, so it will be sent to the House floor. That version passed on party line votes by a vote of 13-4. Essentially, what it does is it prohibits state agencies, local governments, and universities from using DEI initiatives. It says that government agencies and colleges can't have an office or an individual who works with a title that forms the DEI acronym. So no more, Chief Officer of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. That is not going to be allowed under the bill. There was a ban on contracting with private companies that have DEI programs. It removed that particular ban. People said that they didn't like the fact that the bill was going to regulate, how people could interact with private companies. It also clarified wording to make sure that it would not affect organizations like the NAACP or specific groups of people, such that it would be allowable to have Black History Month and other heritage months or an LGBTQ Pride Festival. Those are allowed under the bill that was passed yesterday. What it still bans it bans state agencies, local governments, school districts, and public universities from giving any sort of preferential treatment for a person based upon their race, their gender, sexual orientation, or other characteristics. And so, for example, a university would not be able to accept a person based upon just their race or their gender. Also, a company that considers 2 candidates for a position would not be allowed to select one over another based upon their race or gender. It furthermore prohibits any parts of state or local government from requiring employees or prospective students to sign a diversity statement or to take mandatory diversity training courses. Universities and agencies would still be allowed to offer the courses to employees, but they would have to be non-mandatory courses. And if a person declined, they could not be punished. Once again, it doesn't have any effect on Heritage Month programs or specific teacher recruitment initiatives like Call Me Mister, which is a program that's put in place to encourage more Black men and men of color to enter the K through 12 teaching profession. This bill does not put any sort of hindrance upon that. It also does not stop schools from teaching about the Holocaust, and it does not prohibit any programs for veterans with disabilities or any events like that. So that's kind of the bill in a nutshell. The hearing yesterday, I think, was about 2.5 hours long. I listened to a majority of it, but that's just kind of a very quick rundown of the bill that was advanced yesterday. It will be going to the full House sometime beginning next week. I'm not exactly sure when. And of course, they'll have a floor debate on the House about it. Are there any
Alright.
questions that anyone may have?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
If they, you see that what they don't want, what do they want?
I'll be honest with you. From listening to the testimony yesterday, it was hard to find someone who could articulate exactly what it is they did want. I'm just going to be honest with you. A lot of it was basically taking things out. But I listened to, like I said, a majority of that meeting. And it was very hard to find out for those who voted in favor of it. Other than the sense that, the word meritocracy was used, the word, trying to remember the other term that was used.
Merit-based?
Yeah,
Is that what you?
anything meritocracy, merit-based,
Mhm.
that's what kept coming up over and over, even if some of the questions from people who opposed it didn't necessarily, ask that for an answer, but that was typically the response that was given.
So we've got our work cut out for us. We'll see what floor debate's like next week, if it gets to the floor next week. Um, and then it has to go over to the Senate. We'll see what the Senate does with it before a bill is presented to the governor. Both houses would have to agree to whatever the bill is saying. So we're going to have to be forward thinking and planning ahead, uh, preparing the agency for whatever we need to do. But whatever we decide to do, it's going to make us stronger. It's not going to weaken the agency at all. And I think our our performance speaks for itself among the legislators. You would hear it in the Senate as well as on the House side. They know that the commission has done an exceptional job over the last 6 years. And they are, matter of fact, several people who supported us were chairman of Ways and Means Subcommittee. Those folks spoke up for us, knowing what we do, because they're the ones who examine our budget. They're the ones who get copies of our research or whatever we need to present to the General Assembly. They're the ones who are looking at the information that we put out. And because of our relationship with over 15 state agencies, that let them know that we are the glue. We are that bridge that that puts the community and the agencies together. CMA closes the gap and make sure that communities are being served by the appropriate agencies. That makes a difference in how things flow in the state. When I first came on in 2018, there was such a disconnect. CMA had no MOUs with any state agencies. And we've ranged from 42 now to as high as 70 partnerships around the state of South Carolina. That's one of the things the statute tells us we have to do. We have to help disseminate information. We have to provide research and collaborate with other organizations to ensure that those we are representing in those communities are being served accordingly. So with that being said, you can rest assured that we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that this is a top-notch, well-performing organization. When I hire, I don't hire from a resume. I hire from the passion that I hear in the people that come before my committee or my team for positions. This job, because we deal with such a diverse population of people, you can't hand pick a lot of times like they're thinking. It is hard because a lot of folks do not like working with diverse populations. And that's important because the statute tells us that we have to do just that. So therefore, we try to make sure that the people we bring into the commission, we don't have a diversity policy. Matter of fact, we have shared services. So state HR actually goes through our resumes, our applications, and they send them to us based on what we're looking for. The only stipulation they have is that if someone's a veteran, they will list that you have 4 veterans in the group hear their names, we have to interview veterans. We don't have to hire, but we have to see if they're a good fit for the organization. That's the only thing that HR tells us. Otherwise, we select people based on their experience and their passion to serve. And I think that has worked. That's why this commission has moved the way that it has. Over the last few years, with such a small staff, we have done some tremendous things, and we will continue doing just that. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Dr. DaCosta, these past few days, the CMA and you was faced with this difficult challenge and the hard work and the important contribution to the community that we serve. We are very thankful to your leadership with
Thank
your
you so
swift
much.
and quick in defending our course.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? All right. Hearing none, we have one item that needs to be voted on. The commission is also responsible for approving or disapproving tribes if they want to become state recognized. This in October or September of last year, we had one tribe, Chief Nelson, the Eastern Cherokee Southern Iroquois United Tribe. They submitted their petition for state recognition. Now, there's a separate committee that handles state recognition. This committee was selected when Native Americans were added to the statute of CMA. We went through the long process. We went through a series of questions and things they have to provide, like historical documents. They have to show the lineage. They have to show everything that makes them a tribe and who should be a part of the tribe. After several sessions of corrections and sending back documents, the final result was that the committee did not recommend them for state recognition because of components that were missing. Like each tribe has, each petition must include 100 names, and we send out those letters to folks to make sure that they are actually a part of that tribe. We did not get 100 letters back, and the law says that we have to have 100 letters from people who say that they are truly a part of the tribe. And because of that, I think you all received a copy of the letter that we sent to Chief Nelson, letting him know that the committee did not recommend them for state recognition at this time. They are recognized as a group, and they are allowed to resubmit if they make all the necessary corrections to their previous petition. So at this time, I would need a motion to accept the recommendation from the recognition committee and a vote on the recommendation that the committee made. First, a motion on agreeing to the recommendation, and then a vote.
I'll make a
A
motion.
motion to receive the recommendation.
I'll make a motion to receive the recommendation.
A second,
A second to receive the motion of recommendation.
all in favor,
Aye.
signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. Chief Nelson is aware that his tribe did not get recognition this time, but he got very close. And I think that if he makes the changes that are necessary and can get the 100 people to acknowledge that they are part of that tribe, then he may be able to do it the next time around. But for right now, he will just remain as a group in the state of South Carolina. And one thing, the last year or this year, we got $250,000 in grant funding for our tribal communities. I want to report that the checks have gone in the mail. The state recognized tribes will get 20,000 each, and the groups will get 15,000. Now they had to submit application to us. We had to approve the applications, and they have to file a report at the end of the year or the end of the cycle telling us how the dollars were spent. Because we need to know that the dollars are being spent to improve the quality of life in our tribal communities, support their projects, and support their powwows and anything that will increase the education of our Native American communities. Action items next on the agenda. Our action items right now would be to deal with these changes. We are going to have to put together a plan. We may be calling on you all, maybe to visit some of the senators or House members as we go in to negotiate or to plead our case in front of them about the things that we would like to maintain with the commission, and build a case to show that the commission's here to stay. And we will make sure that it does, because it plays such an important role in South Carolina. I think the governor would even agree to that. And his office absolutely loves working with staff from the commission. I've been approached by several of his key people on his staff, and they have praised my folks, my team, and how they respond, how they react, and how they represent the commission. So I think that we're good, but we want to make sure, and we want it in writing. We want it in the law so that we're not blindsided in any way. So that's our next steps will be, our action items will be to make sure that we build a great case and we submit the kinds of changes we want to see. I don't believe in anyone else writing my destination. I'd like to write my own story and have them accept it. And that's what we're going to do at the commission. We're going to write our own story here on out and introduce it to those who are in authority to make the decision about what we're doing. Any closing remarks before we adjourn? Madam Chairman, you can, yes?
No, I was just gonna comment and tell Brenton, as well as everyone else, to keep up the good work. I know that's a hard fight, going backwards and forwards there, gathering that information and pleading our case. So you know, we give him a lot of courage, and thanks for doing that, sticking it out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, thank you for everyone's opinions and contributions for today. It has been a great meeting. Now, I would like to ask a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Maple made a motion to adjourn, and Commissioner Nate seconded the motion. Now, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much.
All right.
Very good, Madam Chairwoman.
There you go. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.